What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another WornKibbles video. Today, I've got a story about yet another school-themed disaster that happened to me and my friends. This time, our terrible tour guide got us freaking lost on a school trip. It ended in a 150-kid marathon down Times Square, chasing our tour guide, missing the most expensive part of the trip, and a bus accident that, well, let's just say it wasn't exactly fast and furious. But anyway, guys, it's a pretty crazy story. Make sure you like and subscribe. We are actually trying to hit 300 subscribers by the end of January, so let's see if we can do that, and let's get right into it. So, this story starts with one of probably the most legendary school trips ever. People at my school had the opportunity to go with the band, choir, and orchestra to stay a week in New York City. The music groups had a few performances, but then we would also get to see a crap ton of cool tourist stuff. Going to the Statue of Liberty, seeing some museums, like there was a cool war boat that we got to go on. Like overall, it sounded so insanely peak. Spend the second week of summer with all your friends in a hotel and explore the Big Apple. Pretty dope. What could go wrong? So, we had about 150 people sign up for this New York City trip, which is way too many kids for any sane adult to manage. The school panicked and outsourced the planning to a travel company that promised us total organization. We loaded into these massive buses like we were heading to a tournament, ready for a grueling 24-hour drive across the Midwest. Me and my friends were pumped. We were literally crawling under the bus to load bags just to burn off the excitement. Little did we know, we were just loading ourselves into a giant metal coffin for the next day. So we all get on the bus and we meet our driver. And the plan is that we will basically drive through the night and stop a few times for lunch and all that. And halfway through, we will have to stop to switch drivers. And we're going to name our bus driver Gary. Now, Gary was a pretty nice dude and all, but he was as old as a dinosaur. I mean, gray hair, basically shedding dandruff. He was a super old man. And those of you that know older people know that generally they tend to drive slower. And I have nothing against old people, but when you are in a 21-hour drive, you don't want the guy whose bones creak when they move at a slightly elevated speed to be the one driving. But anyway, my friends and me are playing card games on the bus to pass time. We're talking about all the cool stuff we're going to do in the big NYC. And all the way up until Gary just randomly pulls over. And of course, we're like, okay, this guy is pretty old. Maybe he has to go to the bathroom. I guess that's fine. But we are all a little confused because we are only about 15 minutes away from the address that we were supposed to get our new driver. And we were kind of thinking, couldn't he have just waited and gone to the bathroom there? But no, that's actually not what was going on. It turns out that this guy's timer with the company had run out. Yes, that's right, folks. He had driven so slow that we were 15 minutes behind schedule, and 15 minutes of driving, oh boy, that was way too much. That 15 minutes was like 15 hours for this guy. I mean, clearly he had been driving for so long. If he went even a minute more, this bus would have just instantly detonated, just blown up because he was driving for too long. But anyway, Gary the Dinosaur is a strict rule follower, of course, so now we have to try and tell the new driver where we were so that he could come to us. And I don't know if they forgot Google Maps existed or something, but they must have been out there with a map and compass, trying to triangulate their positions off landmarks and stuff, because it took this guy over an hour and a half to get to the spot that was only about 15 minutes away from where he was. So, of course, this all adds another hour and a half to our already dreadfully long drive. And that means that when we actually get to the hotel, everybody is tired. It's super late into the night. We're all cranky, and we just get into the hotel. We get our room assignments and basically go right to sleep because we're out of it. Well, this travel company had given us a full packed schedule for the next day. So we had to wake up probably around 6 or 7 a.m., meaning we only had about 3 hours of sleep in us as we go into what was going to be probably one of the most stressful days of my life. So The next day is only what I can describe as complete chaos. In the morning, we get paired up with our tour guides and split into groups. Now, of course, this is when we find out that Gary, the slowest old man in existence, is the main tour guide. And after we eat the standard extremely mid hotel breakfast, we are quickly losing hope that we will be on time to anything that was going to happen that day. First up on our schedule was an old aircraft carrier. It was actually super cool. It was a museum with planes on display and everything. And since the band had to perform on the boat, that took up most of our time. So sadly, we didn't really get to look at most of the cool stuff on the museum. And we now had to rush to the concession stands that were around this boat to get lunch and not be late to our next event. And since there were like 150 kids all trying to get into one line, it was pretty much impossible for half the people to get any chance of eating lunch. But either way, we were still quickly shuffled out of this boat half hungry and in chaos back into the buses. And we were on to our next event, which was a tour of Central Park. And once we got there, the tour guides themselves were late. So we are left sitting there for, I kid you not, 40 whole minutes waiting, which is leaving me thinking we could have at least eaten lunch before we came over here. Half of the kids didn't even get to eat. But next up, the choir and orchestra performed at this beautiful old church, and it was super, super cool. But I swear I was literally falling asleep in the pews because of how little sleep we had had and all the walking we had done earlier the day. But I was also super hungry. I swear I could feel myself withering away, bro. It was like I'd gotten hit by a wither skeleton from Minecraft. My health was rapidly depleting. And pretty soon we went to dinner, and thank goodness, because if I had waited much longer, I would have had to reach the back of my Minecraft inventory to eat some rotten flesh or raw chicken, you know? But it was time for dinner, and we went to a super cool restaurant where the waiters and waitresses were all singing and performing musical songs as we waited for our food. Though that might have just been to distract us on how insanely long it took for our food to arrive. I mean, I don't know what they were doing back there, but I swear, bro, it felt longer than queuing in a Counter-Strike match with 5,000 ping. And it made it even worse because we were already hungry because half of us hadn't even eaten lunch, like I said before. But it seemed like we were all calming down. The night was solid. All we had to do was eat dinner, and after we had left dinner, we would go ride the buses to see the New York Philharmonic Orchestra perform. All was calm. Until we got a message that literally sent chills down our spines. The bus has gotten into an accident. Bro, what? Immediately, all of the band kids started freaking out because their instruments that all cost a couple grand each were on that bus. And they don't know if their instruments are lost to this bus crash or anything. But to make it even worse, Gary stands up and starts freaking out. He's like, guys, we don't have enough time. We are going to have to walk to the Philharmonic. And he stands up and starts heading for the door. And I'm looking at this guy like he's crazy because it's been a long freaking day. So much has gone wrong. I've barely eaten lunch. We've been late to everything. And now the bus has been in an accident. I haven't even gotten my food yet at this restaurant. But a giant mob, about half of the 150 people that were on this trip with us immediately stands up and starts following Gary. And he is just gone. So I'm kind of sitting there oh crap, I'm realizing I've got to go too, or else I'm legit lost in New York. So me and the people at my table all get up and we basically start running after Gary, who is acting like he just bathed in the fountain of youth and is now out and already sprinting down the street. It is complete chaos. There are adults and chaperones and kids yelling at him to slow down. And mind you, this dude was a 60-year-old man who just decided to take the Bane Formula from Batman and gain speed 3 and use it to run stoplights. So we are running, yelling after this guy who is not waiting at crosswalks, literally running red lights. A few cars almost hit him and start honking at us. He's sprinting around corners like bro has a 5-star wanted level in GTA, which is in fact not the rating that we were going to be giving him after this little stunt. We are basically on a follow mission in the middle of Times Square. And after about 10 turns and probably a whole mile of running, this guy stops. And we are all like, oh, thank goodness. Because at this point, we have left half the group behind. I have like 8 missed calls from my friends asking where I am. So we're all obviously thinking, okay, good, he's stopping so that everyone can catch up. And just when I'm thankful about this guy stopping and starting to catch my breath, this guy pulls out his phone, dials a number, and holds up his phone, goes, yeah, hello? I'm lost. What? You are lost. The tour guide, the guy who lives here in New York, the guy who is trained specifically not to get lost, the guy who has confidently been sprinting through downtown until this moment. Now you are lost? And so, of course, people start to get upset. And just then, it started raining. And I'm not joking. I know it sounds like a freaky cartoon, but it just started raining on all of us. And now people are really, really just down in the dumps. Most of the band kids are now crying because they're still worried about their instruments, and it's just really exaggerated by the fact that we are now standing in the sweaty, stinky New York rain. We're wet. Our clothes are starting to stick to us as we're realizing that we just spent $200 to see the Philharmonic Orchestra, and instead we got a 150-person marathon through Times Square in the rain. And eventually the buses come back and pick us up, and we went straight back to the hotel, sad and hungry. We completely missed the Philharmonic, which was like the most expensive thing that we all paid for on this trip. And no, we didn't get a refund. And you want to know the best part of all of it? The bus that got into an accident, we were all thinking it crashed. It was total terrible stuff, right? Well, what happened was a biker rode into the side of it while it was parked and had lightly dented it. So, moral of the story is that you should never trust your tour guide named Gary, and if they start sprinting away from you in Times Square, you have a better chance of not getting lost if you just don't follow them. But anyways, other than that, the other days of the trip were pretty fun, and me and my friends got into some shenanigans in our hotel rooms. That was pretty bomb. If anything like this has ever happened to you, let me know in the comments down below. I mean, please, I don't want to be the only one out here that was lost in New York in the pouring rain. But anyway, guys, that's about it for the video. If you liked it, leave a like, leave a comment. Again, please subscribe. We are really trying to hit that 300 subs goal. We only need like 10 subscribers. It helps out the channel and it doesn't cost you anything. But anyway, guys, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.